Greetings, everyone. DFG here. Hey, I just want to take a moment and talk about the importance of reflection as it relates to personal accountability. One of the things that you should always do before you make a decision is you should take time out and think of the consequences of that decision. In essence, you shouldn't even make a decision without thinking about consequences. And I know far too often, when most of us are trying to decide on something, we pretty much just, kind of look at it in terms of, do I feel good about it? You follow me? Or, am I inspired to do it? Feel led to do it? Or whatever rationale that's we're using to really move forward. Well, here's something that you should always remember when you're making decisions, especially decisions in relationship to your wellness or to your best interest. You should always look at consequences first. There should be no decision that you make without saying, okay, what are the consequences of this decision? Because what I would tell you, that in thinking of the consequences of those decisions, it challenges you to take some time for reflection before you make a decision. There is a quote that says, it goes like this. It says, as water reflects the face, so does our life reflect our decisions. So I'll say it again. As water reflects the face, so does life reflects our decisions. So a lot of times we'll see individuals, people people I know, friends of ours, family members, who are in dire straits. And because of their conditions, I'm talking about individually, not necessarily collectively, not necessarily community-wise, because there are things community-wise that can impede one's ability to progress. But when you start talking about personal decisions, personal accountability, things that affect one personally, we have family members and friends who constantly believe that their situation happened, the situation that they're in happened to them for some other reason other than decisions that they made. And at the end of the day, in most instances, this is just simply, not the facts. So when you look at your life and you look at the situation that you're in with your life, one of the things you should always be thinking about: what decisions did I make to end up here where I am today? And that's why, again, consequences of thinking about the consequences, taking personal accountability as you think about the consequences, what we call reflection, allows you to really make a better decision. And now let me give you a couple of raw examples. Let's just say somebody is struggling with, cocaine addiction. In this case, we're going to talk about, crack cocaine. Some of you guys who know me, I have, some siblings that are, they are addicts. They are crack addicts. Unfortunately, it's nothing that I'm proud of. I have all the love and respect for them in terms of my siblings. I don't respect how they allow themselves to become, partakers in the drugs. But they just didn't one day walk up and somehow or another fall into a pothole of crack and start, smoking it or inhaling it. No, they made conscious decisions, to try those drugs out, to participate in smoking or whatever, snorting those drugs. And now today their lives are, for the most part, in total shambles. And you can't blame that up on, systematic racism, or you can't bring that up on, your environment or culture necessarily. Although those things do play some role in it. But you can't blame it on those things exclusively, because if that's the case, everyone who came up in those environments or who had those same challenges, whether it's culture related or environmental related, however you want to say that, then that means it would be 100 for 100. It would be 1 to 1. So, of my 8 siblings, 2 of them are crack addicts. So what happened to the other 6? So you can't blame it just necessarily, not when you're talking about individual decision making. So I would tell any of you who are in the hearing of my voice, if you're not satisfied with your life and your condition, then you're probably not weighing consequences before you make decisions. And if you would change that, instead of just jumping off and just saying things without thinking, doing things without reflection, following the crowd because that's what everybody else is doing, If you are willing to stop and say, you know what, enough of this, enough of this blind leading the blind mentality. I'm going to take time and I'm going to look at my life and I'm going to call it what it is. I'm going to have, a moment of clarity where I'm honest with my circumstances. And this to everybody. If you're falling in debt, if you're struggling again around managing your finances, if you're struggling with, advancement in the workplace, if you're struggling in relationships, I'm saying to you that you are a product of your personal own environment. And I emphasize the personal environment. It's your environment that you are creating for yourself. Because you're good possibility, that you're not taking time out to really think before you act. I know of situations, I'll give you another example. I was reading an article just recently about Atlanta, and mainly metropolitan Atlanta. And it was talking about the seriousness of HIV/AIDS. And they are saying that Atlanta is right now at third world epidemic proportions as it relates to AIDS and HIV. And they were interviewing this gentleman. I think the guy was 47 years old. And he was saying that in one sexual encounter, he wasn't, hoish. He wasn't someone who ran the streets. He just, without taking time to weigh the consequences, met someone and decided to have, a sexual encounter with that individual, and now he has HIV. And, if he doesn't stay on his medication, he's going to die. And it all came because even though he may have had a sexual urge, a desire to be intimate, with someone, what he did not think about before he made that decision, the consequences. What are some of the things that could happen? What is worst case scenario? And when you think in terms of consequences, worst case scenario is definitely something you should be thinking about. Most people do it and nothing happens to them. Hey, look, it only takes one time in some of these things, guys. You follow me? If everybody is on a job, and I say this to employees that are working in corporations. There are people who may be, getting some advantage because they're being dishonest in the workplace, taking things that they should not be taking. And then, you see it and you're like, well, that's a little extra income. I can make a little extra money. Maybe if I slide, some product, or if I put some things, in a bag and, smuggle them out the back door of the warehouse or wherever it may be. It could be many, many examples here. And no one gets caught but you. And now you're in a situation where now you're terminated. You've lost your job. Now you can't take care of your responsibilities. You can't take care of your family. And it was all because you did not take time to not only reflect, but you didn't weigh the consequences before you made the decision. And I will tell you that again, as far as advancement, as far as, ownership, have and have nots, a lot of it from a personal perspective. Again, I'm not talking about collectively. We know there is such thing as systematic, racism. Unfortunately, it's just a fact. And we're not going to pretend like it does not exist. But individually, as an individual, you can get around most of those things if you take the time, again, from a personal accountability, personal reflection, and say, I need to improve my life, and I need to improve my life right now. The last thing I'll say, I remember years ago, and I was an early, I was a young leader early in my career in leadership, and I remember individuals who were passing me up. We were all, at the entry level management positions, but other guys were getting promoted before me. And I remember thinking to myself, well, why is this happening? Why are these guys getting ahead of me? And it just so happened in the environment that I was in, Deep South, the guys who were going up before me, talking about promotion-wise, happened to be, Caucasian. And I really, stepped back for a moment. I said, well, is this a racist thing here? Or am I being discriminated against based off of my color? And I remember, I wanted to be honest about it. I did not want to just chase the race card or play the race card, because that's not, for me, that's not integrity. For me, that is, quite frankly, it's disingenuous. I'm not talking about racism. I'm talking about playing the race card. In other words, using race as the reason to hinder one's progress when one has not taken time to reflect and look at one's conduct or one's behavior. And what I did, I decided to do a self-check, a self-reflection. And and I thought about it. I said, you know what? Monday mornings I would go to work late. The weekends, what I'm saying, I didn't practice my trade. I left work on Friday and forgot about work until Monday. There were times that, I would even get to work and just slack, and just a slacker. And I thought about it, I said, look, before I even began to say, they are discriminating against me, I got to go back and do some self-reflection. I got to get my act together. First, I got to hold me accountable. I got to get some personal accountability here. And once I did that, I started making adjustments in my life. I started making adjustments in my behavior. And guess what happened? Within 6 months, I was promoted. Within 3 years, I had gone from an entry-level manager to the general manager of the very warehouse that I was an entry-level manager in. Because I got my act together. I started going to work on time. I started being productive. I studied my business. I began to truly do my job at the highest level. And so when I took personal responsibility and personal accountability, then all of a sudden doors that appeared to be shut to me opened. And I suspect those doors were already open, but my mindset was it was easier just to be, slacking and not taking personal accountability or responsibility for the things that were going on in my life. And guys, ladies, I can tell you it's the same thing whether you're in a relationship. This is the same thing. Let's just say if you don't have a bank account and you're frustrated. Well, if you want to have a bank account, you got to be disciplined with your money. You follow me? And if you you don't have any money in the bank, and some of you guys who are hearing me, you don't have any money in the bank, and you're trying to figure out how am I going to get some money in the bank? I don't have a lot of money to begin with. Well, I'll tell you, put $10 in the bank every time you get paid. Guess what's going to happen after 1 year? 10 times what? 52. What is that? $520. Now, you tell me $520 in the bank is not better than no dollars in the bank. And you can extrapolate that as high as you want it. So sometimes, because of lack of reflection, you believe, unfortunately, your own deception. And the only way to break out of that mode, to break out of that mindset, you have to step back and start asking that first and most important question. What am I doing that's hindering my success? Whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in finance, whether it's in my career, or whether it is, how do I make my community a better place? Even being a parent plays a part in this as well. Okay? So I would tell you that any of you, if you can hear what I'm talking about, I'm challenging you to take some time, like looking in the water, one's, face, looking in the water to see one's face, one's life reflects it the same way. So just like you would be looking in a mirror at yourself, take an introspective look inside of yourself. And then be honest with yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to make some changes here. I'm going to make some adjustments here. And then, over a period of time, as you weigh consequences before you make decisions, and then watch and measure. I suspect, you will find out when it talks about time and chance happening to everyone, in other words, your past through your present, you're going to see a lot of progress, and you're going to find out that you're going to be pretty satisfied with it, okay? And, again, this is from, time-tested trial and error. And not only my own time-tested trial and error, as you heard me say it before. Guys, I've worked for some of the best corporations in America, the best in class in almost every industry, the retail world. And I'm talking about senior leadership. So I've worked with thousands and thousands of people. And the difference between those who were successful and those who were not was those who took personal accountability, took personal responsibility for what they wanted, and they stopped the blame game. Okay? All right. That's all I got for you today. Thank you for listening. DFG. All right. Time to reflect. Time to take some responsibility so you can be successful. All right? Peace, guys.